Right, we're getting close to the end of the paper here, and you're probably getting shattered. And it's nice to get the odd easy question like this instead of ones that really require a lot of thinking like the last two. I just need to substitute in x equals -6, so just to make sure, well, there's not any marks, so there's only 1 mark available for it, but just for our sake I'm going to write it in like that. 3 over -6, well, 3 over 6 is a half, so it's going to be -1/2, so y is equal to negative 0.5 plus 2, well, that's going to be positive 1.5 or 3 over 2. To find x in terms of y, we need to rearrange this equation. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do it. To start with, you could multiply everything by x, because we don't want that x in the denominator. It can't be the subject formula if it's in the denominator. But if I do multiply by x straight away, that means I get x is over here and over here. I've got 2 of them, I don't like it. So I'm going to start by subtracting 2 from both sides. So I get y subtract 2 on the left and 3 over x on the right. Now if I multiply both sides by x, I can get x multiplied by y minus 2 gives us 3, and then dividing by y minus 2, I get this, which is my answer, or one of the possible answers. There are a few different ways you could have written this, but this is how mine came out. Okay, now we're moving on to functions, which isn't actually any more difficult than what we've just done. It's just the notation's strange. G of 5, how you'd say that, means what happens if you plug a 5 into this. I'm gonna put 5 in. So 2, instead of doing 2 minus x, I'm going to do 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 gives me -3. It's that simple. H2. Okay, that means I'm doing taking my 2, plugging it into h. I'll actually write this down as I do it. So h of 2 would give me 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. Now if I do that again, h of 2 means I'm going to take my answer to h of 2 and then plug it into h again, so it'd be 2 to the power of 4. So that gives me 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 16, which leads us to a much more complicated one. H2 means I'm going to do 2 to the power of h2, which is 2 to the power of 16. This is a big number, and unless you're feeling particularly bored, I'd use a calculator for it. It gets you 65,536. Right, which finishes part B, but we're not done on functions yet. Still using the same functions. I'm just going to do this like that so we can see them at the same time. Find x when g of x is equal to h of 3. So g of x is 2 subtract x, and that's going to be equal to h of 3. I'm just going to do what h of 3 is over here. So that would mean 2 to the power of, so instead of being x, it's 3, 2 to the power of 3, so 8. So 2 minus x is equal to h of 3, so 2 minus x is equal to 8. That's actually a nice, simple equation to solve. I'm going to take 8 from both sides, or actually I'll take 2 from both sides first. Gives me 6, and then times by -1 gives me x equals -6. Find x when g to the minus 1x is equal to -1. So we've got to understand what this means here. That is the inverse. The inverse. It means, what do you do to get back once you've done a g, so to speak? You've applied that function. How would you get back to where you started? So remind ourselves, our g of x is 2 subtract x. So I'm just going to start with that. G of x is equal to 2 minus x. Now, some of you may know it's self-inverse straight away and jump straight to the answer. It's only 1 mark, so that's fine. I'm going to go through the procedure of finding the inverse function anyway, and to do that, the method I recommend instead of using a flowchart is substitute, well, not substitute, but put y in there and then rearrange to make x the subject of the formula. So I could add x to both sides and then subtract y from both sides. Then once you've done that, you swap the y for the you swap your x for the inverse g of x sign, and swap the y for an x. So it turns out the inverse, this is a self-inverse function. To get back to where you started, just do what you did again. So then I know that if that g of x, g is -1 inverse x, that's 2 minus x is equal to -1. That means solve x. I'm going to add x to both sides, then add 1 to both sides. So I get x equals 3 as my solution.